more on the March of Millions. We are joined now by one of the leading experts on Egypt, democracy in the Middle East, and U.S. policy towards political Islam. Shadi Hamid is joining us. He is the Director of Research at the Brookings Doha Center. He's also a fellow at the Brookings Institution. He is joining us right now on the phone from Doha. Mr. Hamid, thanks so much for being with us this morning. I know that you think the U.S. should intervene quickly, and you've put in some research so that the U.S. is not on the wrong side of history. But just how fine a line is this for the U.S. to walk? I mean, President Mubarak's regime has been more or less friendly to the U.S., yet the U.S. does have to be seen supporting democracy. What kind of line does the U.S. have to walk to be, as you say, on the right side of history?
Well, yes, the U.S. is in a very difficult situation right now. The Mubarak regime has been a close ally for many years. The U.S. is the primary benefactor of that regime, giving $1.5 billion a year to it. So initially, when the protests broke out, the U.S. did not want to see Mubarak fall, and they were hoping for some kind of compromise solution. But right now, the writing's on the wall. I think we're getting closer to the end game. The protesters won't back down from their primary demand, and that demand is for Mubarak to step down. So I don't think at this point there's any getting around that. Unfortunately, the U.S. took a long time to realize that, and only now are they starting to think about a post-Mubarak era and planning for that transition. They sent, I believe they're sending an envoy today to Cairo to try to help facilitate that situation. But I think, unfortunately, the U.S. will be remembered as resisting democratic change in Egypt until the very last moment, which I think is unfortunate.
Shadi, what happens next? I mean, we are looking at live pictures right now being brought to us from Al Jazeera, this million-man march right there on Liberation Square in the center of Cairo. I mean, what happens in terms of timing? Can President Mubarak stay in power? We know there's an election that's coming up in September. Can he stay in power if he promises that his name will just not be on the ballot in September, or do you think these events are going to move faster than that?
Well, the protesters have made very clear that they will not accept Mubarak as their president any longer. The one chant we've been hearing consistently over the last several days is "Down with Mubarak. We want the fall of the Mubarak regime." So that is not something the protesters are going to back down from, because they have strength in numbers. The momentum is with them. We may very well see the largest protest, maybe not just in Egyptian history, but in Arab history today. Already there are estimates of more than 100,000 in Tahrir Square, the main square in Cairo, and we're still very early on in the day. They are planning, or at least thinking about, marching towards the presidential palace tonight for a final confrontation, and then there may be some tensions there, and we'll have to see how Mubarak reacts facing that number of people.
Shadi, thank you so much for joining us. Shadi Hamid at the Brookings Doha Center, joining us there on the phone from Doha. As you just heard, he said he expects tensions to escalate tonight when those million people reach the presidential palace.